Yeah. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Advanced Live Stream. It's Monday, and look who we've got for our special guest host today. It's the return of teacher John. John, welcome back.
It's great to be back. I've really missed all of you guys, and this time is really special. So, hello, it's good to see you.
Yes, well, John definitely makes it special, that's for sure, and we're glad to have him back here. Today, we are talking about religion. This is based on an article in our monthly Advanced magazine. Hope you all have your copies by now. Today's actual article is about a pastor of a church in America who is deaf. He's hard of hearing, but he still conducts a worship service in sign language for worshipers who are deaf and hard of hearing. So you can read about that in the magazine. We thought we'd go ahead and share some vocabulary with you about religion. We'll start off with a poll question. Now you can see that the poll question is worded a little differently. Oh, hey, Steve, clocking in already. Good to see you, Steve. Our poll question is, what is your belief system? And there are, as you can see, we've grouped sort of several belief systems together here.
There's some pretty big groups,
right?
And there are major differences within those groups.
Yes.
But just so they could all fit, YouTube only lets you put four polls in, I think.
That's true.
So,
yes.
anyway.
So we had to compress it. So don't take this as like a religion textbook or anything. But is your belief system Christianity, Judaism, Islam, Taoism, Buddhism, or Hinduism, folk religion, or other? Now, everyone has a belief system. That's why we worded it this way. Yeah. It may not be a Christian one, or a Buddhist one, or any of the traditional belief systems.
What about like an atheist? Do they have a belief system?
Good question. See, an atheist or an agnostic, quick vocab. Agnostic is someone who's not sure about belief in God. Atheist definitely thinks there is no God. Okay. But that's the key. Yeah. Even the atheist is acting on belief, because ultimately there is no proof one way or the other that God exists or doesn't exist. People who believe in God believe there is proof. People who don't believe in God believe there is proof as well, but there is no objective, neutral, unbiased proof one way or the other. So everyone is acting on a belief system of one kind or another. And we're just curious what your belief system is.
It's one of those things because, there is certainly lots of proof, of course, for God, but not everyone has actually experienced it. And so it's very difficult when you have a friend that says, wow, God was telling me this and giving me this info. You do have to trust or believe in their experience if you haven't personally shared it.
Yes,
so that's often why religions have a shared text. Can we all agree, like for the Bible, you've got this collection of prophets that are very public, so you can just all read and agree or disagree on it. But that would be the proof that you have to have. You do have to have faith to accept proof.
Yes, definitely. And those four categories, already we're seeing Christianity, Judaism, or Islam.
Ooh, Agatha,
about
interesting
60%
question.
of you. Agatha
says, how about believing in a human being like a political star? I hear this all the time, right? I see it in movies a lot. I believe in you. The hero here is like, I believe in you right before the end. And there's this phrase, at least in Christianity, that says, don't put your trust in princes, like in political people, because they can't keep themselves alive. So how could anybody that can't keep themselves alive, you can't really trust in them long term. You know what I mean?
Sure. And that's the key phrase there, long term. There is a sense, believe is such a complex word at times.
Yeah.
It is certainly good to believe in someone, to have confidence in them, to have faith in them. What we're talking about today here, right? What we're talking about today is belief in the spiritual realm, belief in more than just human beings. The belief system that you have that helps you make sense of the world. And just to check in on our poll question, it seems that over half of you are Christianity, Judaism, or Islam.
Yeah.
About a third of you, Taoism, Buddhism, or Hinduism. About 10% of you are other, which is fine. And nothing for folk religion just yet. So,
We've got some vocab here that's helpful. This will be used in a religious conversation, but also in other conversations as well.
Right. And the first word we'd like to give you, a very important word when you're talking about religion or belief systems, and that word is proselytize. Proselytize should be on the bottom of your screen right about now.
That's a hard one to spell.
Yes, proselytize. It means to try to persuade someone to convert to your religion.
Yeah.
That is not what we're doing here today. Okay? We are talking about religion. We're talking about religious terms. John and I both are Christians. We do believe that that is the true religion, but we are not here today trying to convince you of that. It may come out in what we say or how we talk about the other words, but to proselytize means to to convince someone else that you should believe in my religion, and that has its place. That's not what we're doing here today. Today, as always, we're helping you learn English and improve your English, and so we're going to be talking about English words that have to do with religion. So, John, one of the words we'd like to give them right off the bat to kind of distinguish from Agatha's comment about believing in a person. Here's a good word to help put that into perspective. Transcendent. Transcendent. John, what is transcendent?
Yeah, if something transcends something else, it means it goes beyond it, right? So typically when we talk about a transcendent experience, let's just use it in a sentence. You could say, his cooking was so good, it was transcendent. It means it wasn't just an experience of eating. It was like, it blew my mind. So if something... When we're talking about religion, we're talking about understanding things that are transcendent to the natural physical world, something like a spirit, right? So understanding a being like God who is transcendent, who is beyond our natural senses, and therefore takes faith.
Right.
Yeah.
Good definition. Long word, but useful. Transcendent. Yeah. Usually today it just means really, really good, but when we're talking about belief systems and faith and spirituality, it means something that exists, or someone who exists beyond the material, natural world. Another good word, devout. Shorter, simpler one here, devout, D-E-V-O-U-T. John, how about devout?
Devout means sincere. So actually, going back to the proselytize, I always proselytize, because I've experienced God and Jesus so profoundly. So I always proselytize. And it's not necessarily a bad thing, though sometimes it does have a negative connotation. Like, don't proselytize me, I don't want to, when someone's trying to sell you something. That being said, devout means sincere. Not just externally practicing a religion, going to the temple to look good for your family, but actually genuinely in your heart, like believing something, right? So typically it has a positive connotation. Wow, that person was really devout. They weren't just religious externally, but they're internally, they actually believe what they're saying. And we get the word devoted to something, right?
From the same root.
Or the noun, a devotee, someone who is like kind of a follower, typically of like a religion would be a devotee. So you say the devotees, am I pronouncing that one right?
Devotee.
Devotee, thank you.
Very
the devotees, I haven't been on advanced recently enough. The devotees, went on a pilgrimage every year.
Right, exactly. And you'll hear the word devout used for someone who just really likes something, like he is a devout fan of Star Wars.
Yeah, you'll definitely see this.
Yeah, meaning that he has an almost religious-like connection with the Star Wars film stories.
You're seeing all the movies.
Right.
Now, what are people devoted to in a religion? There's this term, a creed. A creed, he was the villain from the first Rocky movie, Apollo Creed. But the word creed means a doctrine or a teaching that's written down, and that is like the core of a religion. What is the creed? And it comes from this word in Latin, credere, where you get the word credible, like believable, or incredible, like, wow, that was incredible, I barely believe it. A creed is a list of beliefs, essentially, right? What is the creed?
Yeah, a word that's similar to it that you often hear also, like I think John mentioned it, is doctrine, which is, again, a word like creed for the essential beliefs of a religion, of a faith system, a belief system.
Yeah.
We believe this, we believe this, we believe this. That is our creed. Those are our doctrines.
Yeah.
That's how that word will come up. Yeah. And again, you can hear this used in a secular sense. You will say, like, lower taxes is a doctrine of that political party. Yeah. Because it's something that they believe in so strongly, it's like a religious belief. It's not just their policy, it's their doctrine. It's something they could never change because it's such an essential belief of their political ideology.
Yeah, so as a student, it's really important to kind of, if you're a student of history, it's really important to understand at least the core doctrines and creeds of different religions.
Right.
Some religions have a much more flexible creed. So I'm a Christian, so I believe that Jesus was the Son of God, right? You follow Jesus, there's only one God. But I went into a temple in Taiwan just to talk to the people there and share some tea with them. And I went in and I asked the guy, hey, what about Jesus? And he said, yeah, sure, like whatever. And I was like, so it's kind of like this blended doctrine, and I was trying to help him understand that Jesus was very singular about God.
Right.
So he was kind of hijacking Jesus' doctrine and saying, meh. But some belief systems have a very flexible doctrine.
Yeah.
So it's not always, typically, the more flexible something is, the less trustworthy it is.
Exactly.
But oftentimes something can be rigid and wrong. So you got to find that middle ground of truth, right?
Right. No, and this is why we need to talk about religion. That's the thing about religion. It's a very sensitive topic sometimes. In fact, in English, we have an expression: never talk about politics or religion. We've already talked about politics on the live stream about 3 or 4 months back. You might remember. Yeah. So in a way, this is just bookending that discussion, talking about religion. Because ignorance grows in silence, or something like that.
And different cultures have, oftentimes in like a cosmopolitan society, like here in Taipei, there's so many people from different groups that sometimes we don't want to fight, so we just kind of don't talk about it.
Yeah,
Same in the States, okay, we don't want to debate. But if you take like societies like in the Middle East, people talk about religion because they're very passionate, very devout, and it's one of these things. So being comfortable and with talking about religion, I personally think that it is a hallmark of a good education. You don't necessarily have to believe in something, but just understanding, because you'll never understand culture unless you understand religion, right?
But speaking of talking about something, let's hear from you guys and go to our discussion question now. Our discussion question is simply, how does your belief system, whatever it may be, how does your belief system give you strength or comfort in hard times?
Yeah.
Life is complicated. Sooner or later, we all go through some sort of hardship, some hard times, some suffering or loss or confusion or fear. How does your belief system, this is YouTube, so like 100 characters or less, but give us a sense of how your belief system gives you comfort or strength when hard times find you.
Yeah. There's this other term, a couple other terms that we often don't think of as religious terms, but they're part of the conversation. One of them is this word skeptic. So the two terms here, skeptic, and we're going to learn secular also. A skeptic. There's that word skeptical that you probably know, which means like, I was skeptical when my son said he didn't eat the cookie. Like, I don't necessarily believe it.
Right,
and I think it comes from like skepsis or something like a doubt. Or I could be wrong on the etymology there. But so if you say, I'm a skeptic, your friend believes in God, but you're a skeptic, it means you're not like totally 100% against it, but you have your doubts. So we've all had doubts.
Yeah. And we can all be skeptical about something.
Hakuna Matata. Hakuna Matata. That is a great example, JJ, of a creed, right?
Yeah.
No worries. And actually, Jesus said, "Don't be worried."
Yeah.
So Hakuna Matata. Might as well just be Jesus.
It could very well have been something that Jesus said. Yeah.
No worries.
More to it than that, but Agatha, believing that there is a purpose behind every trial I go through, God will be with me through all those difficulties. I'm not alone.
Yes,
definitely.
Absolutely.
One of the great comforts of a belief system is that you have company in times of hardship, times of suffering.
And the purpose. So this is a decision we all have to decide. Do we believe there's a purpose or no purpose? I believe there's a purpose. I'm really interested. And for those of you watching later, comment, let us know what you think. You don't have to believe the same thing we believe, but we're definitely really interested in how you think through these. Use some of your phrases. Last one is secular. We talk about things that are religious specifically. Oftentimes we use the word sacred, something that is set apart to God or some other religion, something that's sacred. But secular is the opposite, where it's basically something that kind of has nothing to do with God, So you could say there's like a secular song would be a song that's not praising God.
Yeah, the word kind of has a meaning in relation to traditional religions, because like we said earlier, everyone believes in something or someone.
Yeah.
But secular is used in contrast to the traditional religions. If you're not Christian or Jewish or Muslim or Buddhist, you are secular.
Yeah. Or sometimes you could say someone is a secular Buddhist. They say I'm a Buddhist, but they're not really practicing.
Right.
Well, that's all the time we have for today.
Time flies by, as always. It's so good to have you guys with us. We want to leave you with one last word, and that word is redemption. Ooh. Redemption. This is kind of a biggie because it is one of the core creeds or doctrines of the Christian faith, the idea that we are all needing redemption because we are all fallen from grace. But you will also hear the word redemption in secular contexts, in which to mean like a second chance. At something. And you'll find this story actually in a lot of Hollywood movies as well. The hero who failed in some way earlier on or even before the story begins, and the movie you're watching is about his second chance to make it right or to finally succeed, and we would call that redemption.
That's great.
Steve,
Kevin Kern, Stand By Me.
Yes.
Yeah, that's
when I'm having a hard time,
Kevin Kern.
I will tell
Agatha,
myself,
thank you also.
Go listen to Kevin Kern's music to tell myself everyone will stand by me, and I will tell myself that I'm not alone. Thank you, Steve. Thank you, Agatha, for joining in here today. And any final words?
Yeah, there's so much more. I work on the Bible Talk channel, so you'll see that in I think it should be right on the advanced page. There are also other resources from Studio Classroom. So if you're interested in talking about religion from a Christian perspective and studying the Bible, which is certainly the most published, it's the most published book in the English language, but it's also by far the most published Asian written book in English. So if you want to see how Asia has deeply influenced the West, I would encourage anybody that's a serious scholar, get back into the Bible and study it. If you follow our channel, all the better. We can talk there too.
Great tip. Thanks, John.
All right.
And thanks for joining us again. Thank you guys for joining us. We'll be back next Monday with more English vocabulary for you. Until